Hi, I'm Delorianne with Read For Bookclub, Coastal Magic Edition, and I'm so excited to welcome contemporary sci-fi and paranormal romance author Casey Byrne. Casey is a Canadian transplanted to Florida who writes happily ever afters about men loving men, whether they're psychics, space travelers, aliens, professors, construction workers, cops, amateur sleuths, you name it. She'll probably write it. She's got a pair of black cats, aka muses, and nuisances, and a supportive, understanding hubby. Hello, Casey. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. What have you been up to this summer? Any exciting plans?
We moved across the country. I don't know if that counts as an exciting plan, but
I would call that exciting. Definitely not the average day.
no, no. So we're still just getting settled in. We're from California to Florida, and we literally just this week managed to get the car registered. It's a very exciting day.
Nice. Checking off the list. Checking off the list. Well, this is do you remember how many years you've been to Costa Magic? You've been to every one, right?
I've been to everyone except for the one where I moved across the country the other way.
That's right. When you moved from Florida to California.
Yeah, yeah.
So you've got the collector's edition -1.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to get badges for all the original
That's right.
authors for
Yeah.
Coastal Magic.
Yeah. What was it called?
Old City, New Blood.
That's the one. That's the one. I'm sure I still have that T-shirt somewhere.
Oh, those are some comfortable T-shirts. I think we still got a box of them in the garage. Have you always wanted to be a writer? Do you have something? Do you remember that spark that got you into writing?
I do. I've wanted to be a writer for a very long time. I've been a reader for longer. I mean, I think most writers are just readers on steroids. But when I was 10 years old, I had just finished reading The Hobbit, and I was starting to read The Lord of the Rings. And my dad got me a similar book. This one here, trying to get it out of this shadow slash glare. Pawn of Prophecy by David Eddings. Like, this is the book that he got me when I was 10. And I read it, and I knew then that's what I wanted to do with my life. I mean, I haven't gotten there yet because I still have a day job, but yeah, this book was what made me want to be a writer, or made me realize I wanted to be a writer. And as funny twist of fate, when I first met the man who I ended up marrying, we were at a party, and we talked about this book because we both loved it. Unfortunately, he was so drunk that night, even though we were like 4 feet apart, he couldn't see clearly enough to know who he's having the conversation with. So when I met him the second time, he remembered the conversation, but he didn't remember that we'd had it. Had it with me. But I still ended up, marrying him eventually. So
Yeah. Oh my God, that is adorable. Do you pull that out every so often? It's like, remember when you forgot me?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. We talk about it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's right
That's
right up there
fantastic.
with my super romantic proposal too. Which I mean, neither of us are very sentimental, which is or romantic actually, which I think is kind of funny because I'm a romance writer. But my personal life is not a romance novel, I'll tell you that. But we've been dating for 8 years, I guess, when we decided that we were going to get married. And it was a discussion. We had a discussion about it. We booked the hall. We had the ring designed before we told anybody that we were doing it. And then when we finally got the ring, we were going out for dinner with 2 of his buddies, and at a place called Jack Astor's in Toronto. And it's the kind of place that that has like peanut shells on the floor kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And he proposed to me at the table. Like he got down on one knee in the peanut shells there, me and these two other guys, you know.
Oh.
And then afterwards we went to go see Scream 3. So Scream 3 is kind of our movie.
Oh my God, that is fantastic. I don't know that I have ever heard that story before.
Yeah.
That is adorable. Absolutely adorable, but so fitting for you guys.
It's just one of those things. Like, I mean, this is one of the reasons why people were surprised I actually started writing romance, because they're like, really? Really? Is that? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's great. So when you're writing, okay, you are a lover of music. You have a specific um genre of music you like, and you are always listening when you're writing. Are you writing to a playlist, or do you let it go random?
I do not have a playlist. I have very narrow musical tastes. I do not listen to everything. I do not listen to anything modern because I'm an old fogey. Also old fogey, I have this for the kids at home, this is an iPod. It plays music. And honestly, I love it. I love it to pieces. It doesn't burn up the battery on my phone. I just adore it. And I use it to keep myself anchored in the chair, right? But we had a little party a few weeks ago that was for my husband's team at work, and I was gently mocked by one of the millennials who arrived for the iPod, because I was using that to have music on. And I'm like, dude, I've bought the same album, and I've got one here 4 times. I have this on vinyl, CD, cassette, and also on iTunes. And I'm like, I am be damned if I'm going to get anything on Spotify. I don't even know if I can get the whole album on Spotify because I have not logged on to Spotify. I'm like, nope. That's where I draw the line. I cannot do it. They're going to, pry my iPod out of my cold dead hands. So yeah, because I'm an old fart. But just to tie it in with my books here, this album cover is 100% the inspiration for the cover for Banded Together.
Which is beautiful. I love that cover.
That's not the only punk album I have, and that's what I wanted for the for those covers. So
for the musical folks at home, do you want to list a couple of your favorite punk bands?
Okay. Now the question is, we want classic punk or modern punk, which they call pop punk these days, I guess. But I call it modern punk because it is different from class. But classic, The Clash, yes. Sex Pistols, Ramones, those are good go-tos. I also have a favorite called GBH, which they're horribly non-PC. But I started listening to them when I was a teenager, right? So they're kind of embedded in my psyche, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also listen to industrial. I actually just went to see a Front 242 concert last weekend, which is a industrial band from Belgium. Yeah. And I've been listening. I want to say that's the 3rd time I've seen them anyway. Industrial and 80s alternative. Those are pretty much the only genres I listen to.
Yeah. Well, that going to a concert for last weekend does not sound very old fogey of you.
Well, I did have objections. I'm like, well, I don't know if my back can stand a concert. Back problems. But it did actually hold up, and I was glad I went. But of course, once you start looking up the band, I'm like, the band members are all 65 years old. I'm like, they had more energy than I do. I'm like, oh, that's embarrassing. But
oh my goodness. Is your music and your iPod the only tech that you're holding on to? Or is there anything else that you're holding on to instead of upgrading to the new version?
No, this is probably the one that people are just like, I think when they see me pull it out, because I take this on the plane, I don't have to worry about shutting it off because there's no Wi-Fi on it. There's no nothing. You have to plug it in to make the music attached to it, but no, I mean, like this is like my little tech my tech cold out. But like once upon a time my husband did call me a Luddite because I didn't want to switch to email. I mean, it's a long time ago. We've been dating a long time. We've been dating a long time. We've been married a long time. Yeah, because I mean, I slow to change, I guess.
Well, bringing it back to the London Calling, I think this is a good transition to start our deep dive into your back catalog. And I knew you had a lot of books. I've been reading you for years. You're not only an author friend, but you're also a personal friend as well. And I knew you had a lot of books. I did not realize you had 27 books, though, until I was putting this graphic together. How do you feel about that when you see all of your stuff side by side and realize your whole body of work?
It does. In many ways, it feels kind of amazing. Like I can't believe that I've done that, and then in many ways, it's just like, why haven't I done more? Yeah. But no, I mean, like it's one of those things that I do feel really proud of. I feel very accomplished when I'm just a simple act. Every book, when you can go from a nothing on a page to a, several hundred page piece of work, it's always very gratifying to do that. So, even if you hate it by the end of the edits, it's still very gratifying to have it.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty proud of what you've accomplished. So I hope that's just a fraction of what you feel seeing it all together,
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, actually. I'm very impressed you did this.
Yeah. Well, if people want to follow at home, we're about to go to the next slide. If you look at the top corner, you'll see the QR code. If you scan that, it'll take you right to Casey's website on a secondary device. And we'll give you just a couple of more seconds.
Yeah, and I'll just apologize profusely for the state of my website because my day job is updating websites. And so over the pandemic, I worked so much overtime, I've literally not wanted to open on my own website and do anything with it. So I've done the bare minimum, like to add new books, and that is it. And so it's an atrocious state. So I apologize.
Well, it is a great shade of purple. And it does have your latest books on there. So you're already above some websites that I have seen out there in Authorland. So, okay. So I am going to pin myself. Here are your contemporary books. We see Toronto Tales, we see Fabric Hearts, and then we see you have several standalones. So basically what we're going to try to do is tell readers what's available. That way they can match up their book taste to what you have on offer. So what can you tell us about Toronto Tales?
All right. Well, Toronto Tales, I was working on another book at the time when I started Cop Out. And I just sort of had this, I want to say it was a vision, because a lot of my books come out of dreams, actually. Like I'll dream like a little scene and then I'll build a book around it. But Cop Out was 100% waking inspiration, and I just had a vision of a cop going up to a house with a death notification and for a spouse, and expecting to see a wife, and finds a husband. So that was kind of, now that's not how it plays out in Cop Out, right? But that was definitely sort of where I started from. And it was such a strong, visceral, like emotional scene that I had to stop what I was doing and work on that. So the other two books were just characters who I enjoyed. I know a little bit more about the characters than sometimes show up on the page, right? So both of the, well, like the second and third books have characters that show up in Cop Out, and so I kind of want to explore them a little further.
And the third book includes a character that, if I'm not mistaken, because I did read these, 10 years ago? If I'm not mistaken, book 3 includes a character that is not the favorite character, and there's a bit of a redemption arc
there is a bit of a redemption arc. Redemption arcs are one of those things that are really, really tricky. I do not try to do it often because they're hard. But yes, I did. He was I wouldn't say a full-on villain,
right? I was trying to avoid the word villain as well,
because he's not he's misguided, let's say,
right?
And you find out the reason for that in the third book. But yeah, in the first book, he's not the most lovable character, but that's one of the things that made it interesting for me,
right,
to write. So,
and your first book, Cop Out, there's a family scene in there that even all these years later, I put up as one of the best family scenes that I've read in a book.
And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And you're not the only one who said that. And that is one of those things that is such a genuine compliment to me, because my family life sucked for the most part when I was growing up. I'm an only child. My mother was verbally and emotionally abusive. And my dad, he was a good man, but he'd been abused as a child. So my mother took advantage of that. I mean, it leaves a mark on people, right? And my mother took advantage of that. So the fact that I could write something that people really warm to as a family piece, that made me feel really good.
Well, you can definitely look to that book as a stunning example of family. I'm glad that people relate to it and that they tell you, so that you get that feeling as well. Yeah. So moving on to Fabric Hearts. Love the consistency in the covers there. I remember when those were coming out, how stunning. You see them all three side by side.
They're so beautiful.
So where did this series come from?
Oh, this series came from an RWA conference many, many moons ago, when men were just sort of starting to trickle in. I mean, for the longest time, RWA was women only, right? And, not like it was like, oh, men can't come, it's men didn't, And we were at this one conference, and I think it was in Orlando. And there were 3 guys who had attended the conference, and there was, some event or whatever, and all 3 of them ended up wearing kilts. And so I said, so my friend Chenny is like, oh, 3 guys in kilts. I'm like, I should write that book. Once again, like that was just a little spark. It obviously did not actually end up exactly that way. Like, when you first say 3 guys in kilts, I think the first thought is some sort of crazy orgy, but that's with 3 guys, which does not happen in these books, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But I do have 3 guys who like to wear kilts, or at least have a fondness for plaid, nothing else.
And the basis of this story is,
you know what? Like, so the thing they all have in common is a porn studio, but only one of the books like has a character who's, I want to say, actively a porn star. That piece of it is fairly minor. And it's funny, I don't know if it's something that I do on purpose or not, but I mean, for instance, Cop Out, like, he's a cop, but that his profession piece of it is a fairly minor part of the story,
right?
And same with the porn studio. The fact that that's provides a livelihood for these guys is a minor facet of the story. It's not a focus,
right?
You might notice it in my character descriptions or lack thereof. I do not focus on appearance very much in my writing either. I may mention eye color once or twice, maybe hair color once or twice. I do not concentrate on it at all, because that's, unless it has some specific bearing on the plot, it's not that important. And I'm happy to let people fill in the blanks as they're reading it, because to me, it's the emotions, it's the story, that the relationship, that's what's the important part of the book for me.
Right. Well, you do it very well.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to mention about Fabric Heart?
Those ones are set in Florida, by the way. Those three. I've been setting books places where I've lived. That's kind of the key there.
It's pretty handy when you do that. Okay, so we're moving to your contemporary standalones.
Right. So Banded Together, that's my punk rocker story.
Love the cover.
That one's a little bit dear to my heart in a way, because that's got a lot of me in it. Punk and industrial was such a big part of my formative years. It was one of those things that kind of made me feel like I belonged. I had a hard time with that when I was in high school and in university. So this was kind of a bonding experience for, me and a few of my friends we met in clubs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that I'm writing about this punk rocker, it felt a little bit more personal than some of my other books, if that makes sense.
Right.
There's a death in there too. It's not on page. It's a previous one, but there was a lot of me putting myself in the character's place. What would I do in this situation?
Right.
I know I say this in the beginning of the book, but this is also was inspired by The Offspring. Because back in the day, the lead singer of The Offspring left a promising academic career to focus on his music. One day I was listening to them in the car and I was like, I wonder if he ever went back to school. And that's where this book came from. It's not based, the characters aren't based on anybody in The Offspring. It was just kind of that one question. I wonder if he went back to school. And then it turned out later that he did.
Yay.
And he's doing some very important work, actually.
Nice. Good for him.
So, yeah.
Then you've got First Time Forever. This one is a completely different take on anything you've written before. It's about a married couple.
It's about a married couple. It's about second chances, empty nesters, the whole bit. I often don't write children in my books. Having not had children, I feel like that's a little bit beyond my ken to do on a regular basis. But this one, they're empty nesters and they're trying to figure out where they are in their marriage, without their son there.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about this book and Illusion of Life both came out of a story prompt for voyeurism. That was the story prompt for an anthology. And neither of these books ended up going into the anthology. They were too long, so I didn't bother submitting them. Both those stories, and they're both very different stories, by the way. They both came out of this prompt for voyeurism.
Nice. One of my personal favorites, Banded Together, is a personal favorite, and pen name Dr. Chicken is another personal favorite of mine.
And I appreciate that. Pen name Dr. Chicken did not get a lot of love, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Pen name Dr. Chicken. Well, so I also really like reading chick lit, especially British chick lit.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was kind of my take on that. I called it twink lit, but that might be a little bit too facetious. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, it was supposed to be like a rom-com kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the idea quite a bit. I'm just sad that more readers didn't seem to take to it.
Well, maybe it will be getting a renaissance soon.
Maybe. I think part of the problem is that I don't feel like the cover matches the tone of the book that much. I don't always have choices over my covers, right? So in this case, I don't feel like the tone quite matched the book. So
gotcha. Well, there's a scene that is so funny that every time I think about this book, that scene comes to mind. So I really do hope other people pick it up and check it out. There's some funny parts in that book.
Really what it is it's about a guy who is a children's book author whose pen name is Dr. Chicken. Like when I say children's book, I mean it's small children. very simple book. So like a Dr. Chicken, I thought was a good cheery name.
Yeah.
For a pen name for like, but like his personal life is a complete disaster. So yeah, that's where that is. So
that's fun. What is Rainbow Blues about?
This is also an older character. His love interest is a little bit younger. I'm sorry, the cat is eating stuff off my desk right now. Anyway, basically he's this is also kind of a second chance in a way, because he's divorced, he's alone, he doesn't really know what to do with himself, and then he ends up meeting somebody. And it's not so much a coming out per se. I mean, he's coming out, right? But like, it's sort of accepting that about himself, at this later stage in life, because he's married to a woman before. So it's just kind of
I think
making a big life change.
Calling that by awakening now.
Yeah, I'll buy that. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. The blues part is actually because he was a construction worker, right? So it was sort of a nod to the blue collar thing, and then he ends up finding a group of similar men who are all sort of in the trades, and they've got this group called Rainbow Blues.
Nice. Okay, so Teen Consequences, that one has got a mystery. Would you call it a cozy mystery? Or
I
something else?
Would call it a cozy mystery, because I want it to be a cozy mystery. No, I mean, I'm pretty sure it is a cozy mystery. But like, that's one of those things I would like to write more cozy mysteries. So this was kind of my first little stab at it. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. In fact, I could see myself writing more with those same characters.
I would read that book. What did you find surprising in Set Ablaze?
I mean, another one I wrote under a crazy, crazy deadline. So it was super fast. Band Together was the other one that I wrote under a crazy deadline. This was my secret puppy. This is my secret puppy trope in this one. This one's also set in California with a firefighter and a dancer, because I've lived in California now too. So I've set things there. Are you thinking of something specific that I've mentioned and I'm totally forgetting because I'm old?
Oh no, I was totally talking about the dog.
Okay.
That was such a funny addition, knowing you're not a big writer of tropes, to have a secret puppy. I thought was pretty funny.
Well, because I don't write MPregs, it's pretty hard to do secret babies in my writing world. So secret puppy I'd have to do.
I just kept laughing through the parts leading up to it. I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna get caught. He's gonna get caught.
I just realized that's got a best friend's brother in it. I often don't do that either.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Nice.
Yeah.
That's a personal favorite of mine.
I love reading them, and I very rarely write them. Yeah. But I like reading them. Yeah.
Okay. So then 3 Dates to Christmas.
It's a holiday book, obviously. But this one's also a little bit more personal, because the two main characters are very much based on me and my husband in some respect, right? Like, he loves Christmas. He'll start listening to Bing Crosby like way too early, in my opinion, because I am Scroogey McGrinch. So basically what I have is, a Christmas lover and a Scroogey McGrinch who meet up and try and find common ground around 3 Dates of Christmas, which are inspired by, A Christmas Carol and the Three Ghosts. The dates are sort of like past, present, and future themed.
Nice. Yeah, that was a sweet book too. It's so cute. So then now we have your paranormal and sci-fi. And I've heard you several times say paranormal-lite. What do you mean by that?
Okay, paranormal-lite. So like, I do not write full on, shifter universes, vampires, fae, the whole shebang. Like, my stuff is very much like, there's a little hint of paranormal in a regular world. So yeah, like, I mean, North on Drummond, it's a regular story, except he gets hit on the head, becomes a psychic. So it's just a very little twist. Illusion of Life, there's a cursed painting. It's not a full world building with, like I said, shifters and vampires and what have you. Not to rule it out, but that's not generally how my mind works.
Yeah. The Christmas books on the end here, the little twist kind of gets a little bit into magical realism, although again, it's magical realism light.
Yeah, well, so and basically they find a magic coin that brings them to their true love.
Aww.
So the magic coin features for a very short amount of time in the books. So it's just a little wee twist of the paranormal on everyday life is what I like.
And we have those in the standalone section because aside from them each finding a coin, the actual stories themselves are not connected in any way.
That is true. Completely unconnected. Yeah.
Okay. So
now in my brain, I'm envisioning like this coin sort of going through circulation, as people buy things and kind of pay for things, it moves along through the universe, and then when it finds the right person, it does its thing.
That is very sweet.
But I don't really articulate that in the books. That's just what's going on in my head.
Right.
I also thought I would never write a cowboy book because I'm a city girl from Canada. Well, and there's cowboy parts of Canada, right? Like Calgary and stuff, but I'm not from there. I have never been there. So I thought I would never write a cowboy book, but there you go. There it is. Cowboy book.
But it's a cowboy in Las Vegas though. So
fish out of water.
There you go. Bringing us back to North on Drummond, you talked about knock on the head brings him some psychic ability, but there's also a mystery in this one as well, right?
Yeah, this was the one I wrote before I wrote the cozy mystery because I feel like I was cheating a little bit, right? Like I wrote a mystery, but I have a psychic who solves it. So a little bit of a cheat there.
Hey, they solved the crime in the end, right?
Oh yeah. But it's just one of those things, I'm like, well. But it's also funny because it's nearly 100,000 words long, and I didn't know until I'd written 70,000 of it who actually had done it. So,
oh my goodness, that's funny.
So if anybody thinks that they got it before, 3/4 of the way through, they're lying because I didn't know. So how could anyone else?
And you are in the process of book 2, right?
I am indeed.
Woo! Yay!
Drew's friend Kyle got a story. Once it gets this one is going to be a little bit more paranormal, I think, than North on Drummond because it's a little bit spookier, deals with ghosts, this one. So I'm hoping it's a little bit spookier anyway.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that. We'll stay on this line. Last Bastion. What is this one about?
Well, I mean, I don't really want to give spoilers, but I mean, really, like, it's my take on a zombie book.
Mm-hmm.
Zombies aren't super romantic, though, so it's got a little bit of a twist to it. I mean, it started as a short for Coastal Magic a couple of years ago, but the thing is, like, I can't write short, so I actually wrote, it was like 28,000 words, and then I cut it down to 5 for the Coastal Magic, and then I released the big after.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was a very clever take, and I think people will enjoy it. It's a second chance romances as well.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then you've got your 2 sci-fi novellas.
Yeah, the standalones. Yeah. So Union of the Snake, that was actually for a Duran Duran inspired anthology, which of course I had to say yes to because Duran Duran was also very early influenced my musical, when I was like in middle school. And it was also where I learned to love Guy Liner. So Duran Duran is directly responsible for my love of Guy Liner. So they, someone offered me a spot in this anthology, and I was like, yes, I will take Union of the Snake. Thank you.
Nice.
So that's where that came from. The Tithe is also was for an anthology that fell apart, but it was supposed to be a sci-fi themed anthology about comets, actually. It never actually happened. And then I ended up later submitting it to another anthology, but it was a really big anthology, and mine story was last. I don't think anyone got to it, I think that the anthology was like 1,000 pages or something. It was a really big anthology. And then when I got my rights back, I made it longer and submitted it out. I would say these two. I mean, I don't really write what I would call hard sci-fi, which is, very techie stuff. The sci-fi I write tends to more along the sociological kind of aspect of sci-fi, the futuristic piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say of all my sci-fi, these two are probably they're the most sci-fi-est of my things.
Right. Well, The Tithe has been a Coastal Magic fan favorite for as long as it's been out. It's a friends to lovers story, but it's bittersweet and heartwarming at the same time. There's something so compelling. Every single person who has read it and reviewed it for Coastal Magic has just fallen in love with it. I kind of see it as like something that would be on like Picard, that it's so bright and cheery, but at the same time, it's dealing with.
Got a dark underbelly.
Yes. When you get to the end, you're going to have some feelings.
Well, that's the goal. No, but I mean, like, I do love this story. Like, I mean, I loved how it came together.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those things that I was really sad that, in this anthology that it was in, that it ended up being at the end, because I'm just like I said, I don't think anyone had read it. So I was really happy to be able to, take it out, put it in out on my own.
Wow. I'm glad you did too. It's a beautiful, beautiful story.
But I mean, once again, like, even though it is, one of the more sci-fi of my books, I still think it's a fairly light, even for people who don't really like sci-fi. I think it's still approachable. It's still
relatable.
Yeah.
Okay. Since we're on sci-fi, let's circle back to the top there for the Galactic Alliance series. And where did this one come from?
So actually, this one came from a dream. I actually dreamt the scene, and it's fairly unchanged, although there's a little more sex to it. Where we have mistaken identity. If the one character assumes the other character is a escort, and for reasons, the man who's mistaken as an escort goes along with it. Mm-hmm. So I knew it wasn't anything present day when I dreamed it, so it had to be futuristic, and I just built the entire piece around that, the whole book.
Nice.
And then the second book was again a character that shows up in the first one that I kind of felt needed some exploration. The third one is once again a bit of a redemption arc, actually, because I have a guy who's a bit of a jerk in book 2, at least, and I redeem him in book 3. Mm-hmm. But book 3 is also really, really highly inspired by there's a restaurant that I really love in Fort Lauderdale called the Mai Kai, and it is a Polynesian dinner show, and they have fire dancers. 100% inspired the fire dancer in this book.
Yeah, he's fabulous. Well, your third book, Redemption, seems to be a trend, because that is also true for your MI case files too.
Yeah, you know what it is too, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Funny, but and the thing is, like, I mean, I know I've been teasing this forever, because it's just one of those things, life and whatnot has gotten in the way, but the Galactic Alliance was always meant to be a 6-book series, which is unusual for me. I don't usually plan a lot out ahead, but I do know what the next 3 books are supposed to be about. And the third one is the sixth one is also going to be a redemption arc.
Basically, every 3 books, you get a redemption arc.
That's right. Yeah, apparently this is my thing. So I'm glad we're discovering this now. I can maybe take advantage of it. There will be other books. I just don't know when.
Definitely something to look forward to. Okay, so then we're going to finish up here with MIA case files.
MIA case files. So first MIA book was the first book I ever got published. Mm-hmm. Not the first book I ever wrote, though, let me tell you. Hands down, not true. But this also was inspired a little bit by a dream. There was just one scene, though, that in the middle that kind of inspired it. It was to do with the skateboarding, actually. So if you read the book, you'll know the skateboarding piece of it was kind of where I built the whole series around.
Mm-hmm.
But it also was partly because I kind of was overloaded on the werewolves and vampires as heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Which I mean, I read those. I mean, I read them. You know, it's not that I don't like them. It's just that I also kind of like the idea of them being villains as well.
Right.
And so that's really where this came from. Is that I wanted those types of characters to be the villains.
And we don't want to give away the spoiler in this because it's a really, really cool twist that I think is, like any spoiler, best uncovered as you're reading. But is there anything about the overall villain that you can share that is not a spoiler?
No, I wish I could say that there was something, but to be honest, I have not. I'm 100% pantser. No, okay. I guess I've already disproved that from stuff I said. I am a 90% pantser,
Uh-huh.
10% planner. And to be honest, like what the ultimate evil entity that's behind all of this, I have not fully determined what it is. So
Right.
I give more and more hints, like I develop it through a little bit more through each of the books,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't definitively say what it is because I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I haven't really decided yet. And I mean, I am thinking about I don't leave it in a way like such that you're just like, oh my goodness, who's the big baddie or whatever. You know, it's not like a cliffhanger type of situation.
Right. Right.
It's
Definitely.
more like, yeah, no, it's not like that. I mean, I am thinking about writing another book in that series as well. But I still may not actually define it because, you know, some things in life we may not ever find the answers to, right? So
Right.
this might be one of them.
Right. And the way that you're able to do that, and MIA case files kind of hints to that. The heroes are an investigative service or agency. That's the word. An
Yeah,
agency who investigates all of these paranormal phenomena,
yeah,
and that's how they discover who the bad guy is. And so they're learning what the entities are as each case is being solved. They're
yeah.
getting more and more information.
That's it. Yeah, that's basically it. I do kind of allude to the fact that it's cyclical in a way, so that while these books are taking place, it's sort of gearing up as a problem, you know, that maybe wasn't a problem 50 years ago or 100 years ago, what have you. And I do explain why. Like that, I do explain in the
Right.
books, that I'm not going to give that away. But yeah, it's this is a pantser at work. I tell you.
Oh, that's awesome. Anything else about this series before we move back to the full screen?
No, I don't think so.
So now I'm going to bring us back to the full screen. And we're just going to take a quick pass through because you don't really write to tropes, you write more to themes, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the themes first that you gravitate towards, and then we'll point out any specific ones that have any tropes.
Well, I usually have themes of betrayal and or fish out of water in my books, almost all of them. And I think honestly, most authors do have something that is consistent in all of their books because I mean, these books aren't being written in a void, right?
Right.
It's coming from your own personal experience. I moved around a lot when I was a kid. I changed schools. I was always, you know, being thrown into these situations where I didn't know anybody. I had to make new friends. I had to, you know, I didn't know how long I was going to be there. So, you know, the fish out of water thing is a very unfortunately familiar
Yeah.
emotional state. And same with betrayal. Like, you know, once again, I told you my mother was not a very nice woman. I mean, she would regularly, you know, lie to us about things, you know, do bait and switch and all kinds of things. So I found it very hard to trust people. And so themes of betrayal definitely comes out of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know. So yeah, so I mean, these are personal things that I'm putting in there. I mean, all authors do, but you know, most of it's not exact, right? Like it's not
Right.
exactly things that have happened to me, but that's sort of my own personal, I don't know, boogeyman.
Yeah.
So that's what they end up in my books. But I do have some tropes, but I don't really like, you know, some people are always writing, you know, specific character type. or stories. Like, I mean, and, you know, friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, like those are things that I see, you know, certain authors, that's what they're almost always writing. And that's their thing. I like to play in those sandboxes, but I don't often stay there.
Right. Well, you've got enemies or rivals to lovers.
Yeah. Plaid versus Paisley for sure. Voodoo and Vice, I would probably say is a little bit of that as well. I don't know if I've got really any other. Oh, Union of the Snake, maybe. A little bit of that going on.
And then you have Secret Puppy, which is
Secret
your
Puppy.
version of
Yep.
Secret Baby.
That's instead of Blaze. I strangely do not have the secret puppy trope in anywhere else.
You have one with misunderstandings, which I know sometimes can be tricky for people, but there is a specific reason why the misunderstanding is important, which I think is a different thing altogether.
Yeah. First time forever, there is what they term a big misunderstanding, but the actual story takes place over, okay, it's been a long time since I've written it, but like I want to say the duration of the story is a week or 2 weeks. It's a very short time for them to have misunderstood this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know some people object to it, like, I've read big misunderstandings where it's been 10 years, whatever. I'm like, I'm still okay with it generally, but I know people get upset about it. This is not that. There's a good reason for the misunderstanding and it gets cleared up in a week or two. It's not like it's
lingering.
It's a short story too. It's not like a big novel, which I also think is sometimes where people get annoyed when they have to read about this big misunderstanding for 300 pages. You know, it's not
right.
that long.
Right. And then you've got the opposite of enemies to lovers. You've got friends to lovers in a couple of books here.
Let's see here.
The Tithe is friends to lovers.
The Tithe. Oh yeah. It is 100%. It's just I forget about that because they're separated for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And you have a couple of second chances with Craving.
Yeah, Craving. Banded Together. Like I want to say that, so second chances to me means two different things, right? Sometimes it means a second chance with somebody, the one who got away, right?
Uh-huh.
But I also feel like it can mean a more personal growth story for one of the characters where, you know, something significant happens and they can turn their life around in some way.
Right.
That's what I feel about Banded Together. He's got a significant life change and he's able to turn his life around. And so it's not a second chance with a lover who got away, but it's still a second chance.
Right. Last Bastion is
Last Bastion is absolutely a second chance with a lover who got away, as is Tier Consequences.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think I've got that many other ones that are like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Rainbow Blues, I said a little bit, also second chances, but once again, not with a lover. This is a life change. Right. Second chance.
So I think the only thing we haven't talked about yet is that 905, which was your challenge to yourself about writing a short.
Yeah, it was. It was also came out of a dream. Like every clock was stopped at 905, except for one person who had to move through this world where nobody was moving. Like they were all frozen. So it's a very short story because, I mean, that's not going to make a very interesting novel, I don't think. So it's a very, very short, and it's a freebie on my website.
Okay, so thank you very much for taking us through your back catalog. And I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked you at the beginning of this. Seeing them all laid out, and after talking about each of the different books, are you now surprised in a different way?
I mean, yeah. I just wish I wish I could remember more of their names. Remember anybody's name? For some reason, that's something that disappears once the editing's done. I'm like, I don't know who these people are. I mean, I remember who they are, like who they are as people, but I don't remember their names.
Yeah. Well, there's people out there who remember faces but can't remember names, or the opposite is true. They can remember a name. They can remember every detail about the person except what they look like. So it's a little bit of that going on.
Yeah.
So Casey, it was very lovely being able to chat with you about your stuff tonight. I had a great time.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad because it's not too often I get to, just sort of like chat about like, the weirdness comes out of my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoy the weirdness that comes out of your brain. And I know a lot of the Coastal Magic readers do as well. I hope this video finds lots of eyes and they discover you as well if they don't already know you. But I think you've given them lots of options to choose from. Um, if you were to be asked, haven't read you, what should I start with? Do you have a book that you would point them towards?
I mean, for contemporary, I would probably say Cop Out and Paranormal Northland Drummond, probably.
Yeah, those are very two good options. And then my last question, because I know everybody asks me this, so I have to ask you, is audiobooks. Do you know what the
Audiobooks.
status of audiobooks are?
Um, well, a lot of the stuff that I've self-published, when, to be fair, is not actually a lot. Um, uh, there's very few audiobooks because they're expensive. They're expensive and they're a lot of work. Both of which, money and time have been in short supply, past few years. So, Northland Drummond is in audio. The 3 Christmas books are in audio. Most of my stuff that was from Dream Spinner, I think, is in audio. The first 2 Galactic Alliance books are in audio, not the third one, not my choice also. And I think First Time Forever is also in audio.
Yeah, that one is in audio.
Yeah. So I mean, my goal is to get my self-published stuff in audio, but I don't know when that's gonna happen.
Yeah. I think at a quick glance, I think like 75% of your stuff is in audio.
Yeah.
70.
Yeah, it's not a bad chunk. It's just this. It's mostly this. I have a problem with the self-published stuff getting that into audio.
Right. Okay. Well, plenty to choose from. That's for sure. And well, Casey, it was lovely catching up with you as always. And
very enjoyable. Yeah.
And for everyone else, I will see you in the next episode.